Hey, so right now, um, kind of random, but I'm like, let me get this started because I know me, or maybe I don't know me, but I know that I'm never gonna do stuff that I want to do, and I feel like it has to be done. It don't mind me just smoking my medical medicine that I am licensed to smoke in the state of California as a California resident, which is the reason I choose to remain here and not go back to where I'm from in New York. Um, First, let me show you my house. It's pretty messy right now. I mean, like, messy. Okay, so just a little bit. That's the way it gets for me from time to time. Right now, my family's in Philadelphia because I felt like I needed a break and they needed a break. Um, Went out. All right, so I want to do a documentary. And it's funny because I've always wanted to do film, but I was like, what are you going to do film for? Because I've always wanted to tell the story of my personal life, but like what's going on now, I want to tell a story that I don't think is going to be told. And I think years from now, it'll finally be brought to attention. But I don't think like the real life stories are going to be told of like what has really happened to people and people's real experiences of what's going on because this is so new but not new. This is just the first time we've been strong enough to vocalize. And it keeps going out. You realize that? And I'm only smoking so that I don't shake. Like when I smoke, I don't shake when I speak so much. Like my anxiety is so much more reduced. Okay, so my name's Nita, and I served in the United States Marine Corps from 2008 to 2012. And I did aviation, supply, logistics, whatever you want to call it. I joined out of New York and I had like really good ASVAB scores. They're like, you can have any job you want except driving because you don't have a license. Like most New Yorkers don't have licenses. So I'm like, cool. I was homeless before I joined. I was adopted. My mom had kicked me out at 16. That's a whole other story for a whole other day. But I was like, I went from being on the streets eating out of trash cans to making more money I had ever seen in my life. I didn't even know this much money existed in circulation. I had no idea about prices, economy, things like that that young black kids don't know about. So, the first time I had experienced any type of sexual negative in the military was when I was at my recruiting office. And it was the main gunny that was in charge of the recruiting station, and I think he just had like the biggest crush on me. And I'm a gun girl from New York. We're very mouthy. I'm not gonna say I was provocative. We just know how to negate certain comments and kind of direct them in a different way. Like it's like in New York, they're gonna say whatever they want to say to you, and you have to find a way when you're uncomfortable to not like flip the shit and kind of get the conversation going back in the direction that it's supposed to be in. So that's what I did. But long story short, I was supposed to go aviation electronics, 5-year contract. I get upset when I tell a story. $50,000 bonus. That would have been a lot of money for me to send back to my brothers. And for me to just say for myself. Well, one day I go into his office and he wants me to go to his car. Um, and he's literally like, let's go to my car. I'm like, why? He's like, so we can do some things. And I'm just like, like, I'm trying to leave here. I'm trying to not get myself about that life. That's why I'm joining the military. I'm trying to get up and go somewhere where my life is going to be different and better. I'm not trying to be reduced to the status that you're trying to reduce me to right now. And, did I say all that? No. I just kind of laughed and I was like, he was like, why are you playing games? And it was just like the consistent like harassment of like, why are you telling me no? Why are you telling me no? And eventually, that was not nothing new to me. Right before that, I was already harassed at my job at KFC. And, with my grandmother and my family being older because I was adopted and them instilling God in me, I didn't even have as much fear as most women would have. I was like, you need to back up, you know? And, I told Lagani, I was like, basically, no, that's not happening and you need to back up. And I'm going to Virginia until it's time for me to ship out. And when I got back down there, all of a sudden, nobody had got a copy of my high school transcript to confirm my math eligibility. And I was going to have to, if I wanted to ship out today, right away, and not 3 months later, I was going to have to just take an open contract. And it was just, I'm in the $50,000 bonus was gone. And I looked at him in the face when all of this was being said to me, and he just gave me this smirk, like, F you. And I just looked at him like, wow, this is like day one already. Like, if this is here, I don't even want to know what to expect when I get in. And I was right. There was more to come. Far more than I could even expect would go on in the military. I think a lot of things that people don't remember is you got these young 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old girls, some of them without parents' guidance, no guidance, education, no education, coming into the military with very aggressive men. Men that are very, very aggressive, testosterone-driven, conquer, kill baby type mentalities. And you got these very womanly type women, and I say womanly type women because I was more of the masculine type women, because as an African American woman, this is a whole nother story about how our mothers kind of masculized us because there's no father in the house, and sometimes the brothers are a lot more hyperactive and they're not able to carry out manly tasks. So we are more, in a sense, masculated, in my opinion, to be able to help out around the house in the way that a husband would. Because the boys, for reasons that go far beyond the scope of what I'm even able to talk about, are being diagnosed with ADD at a high depression and also being locked up. So, we have to look at that. So, I want to do this documentary. I want to get stories from other females about their experiences. One thing for me right now is that I have social anxiety. I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, depression, anxiety, dissociation disorder, OCD, borderline personality disorder. I mean, it's so many things that I've been diagnosed with. And when I was in the military, there was a time where I was taking all that medication for that stuff. And I just was like, if the medication will make all of this go away, just give it to me, because there was so much going on. And because my mom was born in 1941, mind you, I told you I'm adopted, she kind of gave me a glimpse of what to expect. She told me, men don't give a shit about you. And sorry to say it like this, white people are always going to think that you're inferior. And I always felt like, well, fuck them. Excuse my language, F them. I don't care. I'm a child of God. Nothing makes me inferior. My mom always kind of hated me for having that type of personality, feeling like no one was going to belittle or berate me, or else death was going to come. I would fight for what I believe in. I mean, all the great people fight for what they believe in. I feel like if you're not here to sacrifice, then what are you here to do? This body's a vessel for a reason, in my opinion. But that all goes into the fact that I was ready to fight for myself in the military. And when things injusticely and sexlessly happen to me, that's the problem. I fought. But because of the stigma that comes with the African American woman, it was kind of a hard fight. But it was a little different in my case. Like, think about it like this, right? I was at the peak of physical performance. I mean, I was outperforming men. And during this time, I was married to my husband, who was like the biggest, darkest, most fittest dude that people had seen since MOS school. So I was dominating physically. I had graduated number one in my MOS school. So people knew that academically wise, wow, she's not your average, what they call black girl, which did make sense to me because I don't understand how black girls are supposed to be any more or any less intelligent than anyone else. I'm like, I study. There's another girl somewhere else that doesn't study that won't be that smart, you know. And I graduated number one, and it was like, I was loud and I was like motivated and I was like rah, 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 and I had quickly noticed that the more masculine I became, the more accepting the guys became of me. The more I was allowed into the circle of male Marines, the more I was dapping people up and saying hello. A group that most females were not even allowed to cross into at all. Like, most people don't realize that it is not like that. Unless you're married to a male Marine, your chances of communicating one is very slim unless you're having sex with them. Those type of relationships in the military don't last that long because of the high rate of sexual partners. So I was able to cross into a whole different boundary, and then me and my husband were separated for 2 years. So because my husband was always around me, I was able to even communicate more with people. So I was able to see the Marine Corps from, I want to say, more of a male perspective. You know, um, I heard the things that they said about women. I was right there when they talked about their experiences. Um, at first I wasn't really sure what was going on. I was like, why am I hearing all of this? And, I never really associated myself with it because I never had the intentions of being sexual with any of them because I guess I looked at them as immature. You know, a lot of racism. I am obviously a woman of color, but there were other females that I guess you could say were a lot more melanated than myself that immediately received criticism and ridicule about their appearance as soon as they stepped on board. Definitely, some of the Caucasians were not happy with the high rate of Mexicans or Hispanics entering the military, and a lot of jokes were made towards more of the ones that look more ethnic, more minority-ish. And there was even a privilege among Hispanics. Ones that looked more light received more privilege, and the ones that looked more dark were often criticized and treated poorly and weren't given opportunities to advance themselves or self-educate themselves. See, because my mom had prepared me, I was ready. There were times where they were like, go sweep, and I was like, no, not the honor grad. Honor grad doesn't sweep ever, not once. That's why I graduated number one in my class, so I don't sweep. Anything else you would like me to do, like computer work, administration, logistics, I can definitely do that. I think I've proved my proficiency well enough. And they didn't like that. My mom always told me one thing. You know what makes you not the N-word? I said, what, Mom? She said, if you can read and write. I said, well, I can speak. So what does that make me? And I've always been a speaker. I've always been someone to speak up because I've always had to speak up for myself. I grew up without parents. I've always had to advocate for myself to my adoptive mother. I've always had to plead my case because, she didn't know my character. She didn't know if I was going to steal or not. She didn't. So I had to advocate for myself very young, and my brothers with special needs. So I had to advocate for them very young. So I was very conscious of all that. And I want to say my first experience with racism actually came from one of my superiors, my own race. And I immediately proceeded to say words like black, woman, she, unacceptable with me at all. And don't say them to me. If you want to go talk about it, you can go out back and go talk to yourself. You can go have a nice day. You can get the away from me. I don't have time for that at all. And it's funny because a lot of people, they didn't really hear what I was saying. They always were like, oh, Miss New York attitude. But you don't hear what I'm saying. I'm saying you can take all that sexism, racism, and you can go somewhere else with it. Not everyone has time to entertain it. And they started to catch on to that real fast, that I didn't have time to entertain it. And I think that was the biggest thing that kind of like defeats it, is when you don't have time to entertain it. I'm like, you don't like me and I don't like you. I remember there was one time I said just like this. I said, not that I don't like people that are not black, but if in my history I find out that there's a time where my ancestors were treated cruelly, brutally, and murdered at the hands of another race, the chances of me having that race in my favor is going to be very, 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 very low until I reach a certain level of maturity to understand that everyone should be forgiven for their mistakes through a time of complete ignorance and insanity. But I'm not there yet. And it just blew their minds. It just blew their minds. I was like, I don't like you either. That's why I don't say nothing to you. I don't talk to you. I don't breathe next to you. I don't want to have lunch with you. I don't want to eat with you. I don't want to get to know you. I want to come here. I want to make my money. I want to get my rights. I want to get the stuff that was denied to my people, to my family. And I want to move on in life and keep making strides so that one day, not that we will be equal, but one day we will be equal enough to get the justice that we deserve. And I dealt with it for like 2-3 years. I mean, female sex jokes, XXL magazines sitting all over the shop. A lot of the females were against it. We had, remember one time we got together with our staff sergeant, who were both females, by the way, and we told them that we thought it was unacceptable for them to have the XXL magazines sitting out on the counter for everyone to see and for them to be looking at it during lunchtime. And we asked them to put it away. And it was funny that our superior was letting them do it. Also, our male supervisors would be going to the club with our junior male Marines. And if they saw us at the club, they would either harass us or threaten that we would get in trouble if we didn't leave. Me personally, because I was more mouthy and I had a lot of female friends, they would harass me and ask me, if my friends wanted to hang out with them, and kind of insist that every night I come out and bring more and more girls and try to get people to come out for them. And, it's difficult. I like to go out. I understand being from New York, what the mentality of people are. So for me, I always knew that if I got myself into something, it better be my own choice. And that's what I was prepared for. What I wasn't prepared for was a situation where I didn't have a choice. And that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But pretty much, drugs, cocaine, weed, lean, ecstasy, crack, molly, anything you name it. Anything you name it. And I mean, the command was definitely, it was like the war on drugs in the command, except, we would have our piss test come back and it would be a lot of racial profiling. Probably almost all the black people in the unit would be on the piss test every time. And I think I was the only one that would say something, even though I said so much to the point where they didn't even want to piss test me because I would just have everybody's ears open in the hallway. I'd say, wow, so how do you guys, what's your standard procedure for picking all of the black people in the unit to do a piss test every single time? And the Mexicans and the Hispanics, what's your purpose of that? Oh, okay, no purpose? So it was crazy how it was going on. It was so crazy. I mean, I couldn't believe what was going on, what I was seeing. But, my mom being a cop definitely taught me to follow the rules. So that's what I did for a while. I kind of followed the rules and I took my piss test and, I complied. And slowly but surely, I just started watching a lot of stuff go on. A lot of females of color being called out for attitudes. A lot of Hispanic females being called out for not speaking English at work and being told that it was rude and disrespectful, and that, if they had private conversations with their parents that didn't speak English, that they needed to go step far away because the language was annoying and harassing to their ears. And, constant jokes about their partners and significant others having small genitals and being very short in stature, and things that would make a wife feel very degraded about their husband. Because you have to understand, a lot of these Spanish, I'm sorry to separate the two, but a lot of these women of Spanish descent were the active duty people, and a lot of their husbands were not active duty for whatever reason. I'm not sure. I want to say most of the time when I ask a lot of these females, and I'm going to get more information, and a lot of their husbands have already been convicted in the juvenile, similar to like the African American female, where the majority of now more African American females are serving, because a lot of our younger African American males are getting convictions that are disabling them from joining the military at a young age. And I'll have more research on that. But yeah, so things that are very, and definitely interracial relationships, we just not approved at all. Especially with the women being the ones, if the man had the interracial relationship, it was okay. But if the woman had the interracial relationship, it was seen as like an abomination. If just on both sides. If it was the Caucasian woman having a man of a different race, they didn't like it. And if it was a Mexican woman having a black husband or something like that, that wasn't respected at all either. A lot of women serve duty with male higher ups. And, I remember one time literally walking in where it was like a raffle. Like, who wants to have duty with this one? Who wants to have duty with this one? Who wants to have duty with this one? And I was like, oh, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? Like, what is going on? They're raffling us off for duty. And nobody believed me. Females were so submissive, man. It was so bad that everybody just let it be, man. We just want to keep our jobs. They didn't want to get... See, the thing about it was I was always underweight. So a lot of the females didn't want to complain, in my opinion, because they didn't want to get weighed in. I could run. I was a track captain. So you want to give me a surprise PFT because I'm talking back to you? Let's go. Let's go. We can run in together. Oh, okay. You want to go shoot on the range? I'm an expert. Want to go shoot from the 500 for fun? So I was marking all my T's. I was marking everything off. I was like, you ain't going to get me. You ain't going to get me. I was wrong. They will find a way to break you down. And if you make it, you're probably a lesbian. And if you're not, God only knows what you are. Because if you could stay in a type of organization that does... And I'm not saying it's an organization because they are more working on it about dealing with the issues that other women are going through, in my opinion. Boop, bop, 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 da, da.